because we have a very standard position here from the side of South Park Elementary. As it's one of those it's crazy because this team has been really, really good about being able to hunt down members that are making massive mistakes, even if they are costing themselves a little bit in totality. Annie's control of mid lane means that they get quite a bit of kind of presence in this jungle quadrant that they're looking at now. Are they really wrapping around this far? Okay, nothing crazy.
Yeah, nothing crazy really happening there, and I really want to see how Killer Queen's really approaching these first few levels on the Wukong. Usually in this meta, everyone's basically saying you have to path into bot lane, and otherwise you're just trolling, but they are playing against or with a Jhin Nautilus setup. I think for the early game it kind of makes sense, because you can easily just kill one of those squishy ADCs there, especially with the setup from the Nautilus, and to like get the 1 or 2 early kills, it would be nice. And here we see already good damage coming out by the bot lane from the Whales.
Interesting kind of kickoff to the game. I'm looking at more or less jungle pathing, because you got Gragas, who started on Raptors, it looked like, and then into bottom side for a relatively quick gank, versus Killer Queen, who started on top side to path down to bottom lane, almost certainly, just because I think it's a matter of like Wukong does want the level 4 or level 6 really, really quickly in a game like this, but on the opposite side, like DNK is trying to make activity happen. DNA is trying to make something very, very polarizing happen across the map. And if he's able to do so accomplishedly, or if he's able to accomplish so kind of respectfully, then we're in a position where, topside might end up actually crumbling rather the other way, even after the Rift Herald and the death coming through from the Spar.
Yeah, but look at what Killer Queen is doing here. He was actually going for a wet buff into, I think, chickens, and then back to the Crux. So he's going like the full route of really full clearing his own topside jungle. He actually kind of hovered this topside a little bit to maybe even pull off an early dive. And he's actually very early into this mid lane to pull off a gank into DI1. Flash stuns coming out.
Ooh. Exciting stuff, but DL1 is not going to fall victim to the majority of the damage. Seraphine just able to kind of sustain herself up and not worry too heavily. Now, fight on the top side as well, where Sniper, or Emperor, my apologies, is going to be getting a little bit frisky with Nagia, who's now out of Counter-Strike. I'm surprised there was nothing else to come through from the side of from the side of Emperor, but you do as you please, right? Like, it felt like there was time left remaining there that you didn't have to use. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, he was using the repulse quite early. Maybe even just because he was assuming like he's going out of the trade just to poke him a little bit further. The first wave looked kind of disgusting, with the Jax being like 8 CS to the 0 of the Fiora, with her having 0 wave control. But that is something of the past. Amper, now kind of being collected in this regard, as we see now DNK did the scuttle on the bot side and would now be ready to gank Glory, but Glory, of course, I mean, his flash was down from earlier, but he is not even in position to get ganked here, so at the end of the day, it's kind of fine. Killer Queen is still level 3, not really good early ganker as of the first 3 levels on the Wukong at least. You basically just need the CC setup from either Jhin or the Nautilus, or luckily both if he would happen to do so, and just wants to hit this level 6 as quick as possible. He's not a strong farming jungler either, so Wukong is kind of in this awkward spot, I would say, pre-6, where he just has to farm but isn't really good at it, and he wants to get rid of that early game stage as quickly as possible. So he's just now invading the chickens, or that's what he tried to do just now, but enemy team, of course, dissuading him very much so.
Interesting. I've been focused on a number of different things across this map, but there has been no action, which is astonishing to me, Crincy, because this is VCS, is it not? I am expecting like 5 kills per minute. I'm expecting 5 to 10 kills by this point in the game. Yet we've gotten basically no action whatsoever between the two teams. I know we've had a couple of things. This is actually the first little bit, as we've got a hook. That's an insane kill. Oh, coming through. Let's not quite tick down yet. That's an insane return kill coming through from Slater. And now, honestly, if he's hidden away from Vid, now Vid has to reload. He needs one ability. No, it's not going to happen. Instead, Vid is just going to walk away. In the meantime, I say walk away as if he has a chance to get away from the side of DNK, which is just not the case, as DNK is going to walk down the side of Vid. It was a 1-for-1. After everything, but it is the Gragas picking up, kind of being the beneficiary more than anything else of anybody on this squad here from the side of SBTC. So again, while the Varus is relatively even ground with the Jhin, everybody else is receiving the necessary resources to make things happen.
I mean, at the end of the day, it was a 2-for-1 for the side of SBTC in the extended play, and it was very short also of being like a very nice clip for Yue to show why Jin is a useless pick, as he was almost getting the short end of the stick and not even getting a single return kill in the 2v2, which was initiated, by the way, by Beast Nautilus landing the hook, so I'm kind of pissed actually that this kind of works out for Varus Ash, that they just can get hooked and still win the 2v2. Looked very illegal for me, with Palette out healing the ignite damage with his potion for some reason. Either way, we have seen some damage being done to the Fiora on the top side without killing her, as she was getting zoned away off a wave, crashing to the turret, with Killer Queen just hovering the top side, and Nagia positioning very aggressively, as here we see the replay of what happened earlier. B lands the hook, Deadlift Flourish connects, Ignite sticking down, they flash into his face, crit him in his face, and Palette still lives, and then Slayer can just return the fire. Jin has to reload at some point, and here in the replay, they just die.
Interesting. Okay, 2 members end up falling underneath this bottom tower out of fear of potentially getting kind of jumped on by whoever it is that has the Rift Herald. I believe it's Tom Cruise at this particular moment, but we'll find out at some point. Worst comes to worst, I mean, the kids end up having to go to the school to do their whole period, which is not an apocalyptical kind of grandy to be able to grab onto. But honestly, you kind of take anything at this point.
Yeah, you definitely do, as this wave gets into the turret, and yeah, we haven't quite seen how the play really folded out, but it was just one bot lane dive play to really set it up. Wave is being pushed into the turret, 4 men against 2, that's not fair. The turret alone, not enough to help them out, as here we see how it's played out. Flash body slam with Anchor, that's actually just a good combination by them, and what you can really only fault for the Team Wales bot then is staying around for that. It's just some dive play that you kind of have to respect if you're really on about it, but I can also kind of see why they didn't do just except to do that, as Killer Queen level 5 could contest his whip off. He's not in range to do anything. DNK nicely pulling it away out of this brush just in case Killer Queen is there, and well, he was there. But Killer Queen himself now looks on his own to maybe dive the bot lane. Wave is being pushed in, but here we see the difference, right? The SE bot lane just knows how to cover the dive.
It's a little bit easier. They've got the double kind of mark spin. They've got the Ash to be able to kind of seek out enemies before they show up. Okay, this is interesting. Glory getting jumped on is probably... Oh, it's DNK, actually. That's probably just going to die. There's not much else to be done in that particular case. Now you've got A, B, C, D, K, I think is what I ended up naming it. So, we'll see whether that actually ends up leading to anything else. I also wonder if there's a specific tie between an author and how good that a record is, based on the number of times that people want to request it to go out.
Yeah, maybe. And here we see what we didn't see, which is a solo kill from Nagia against Empa. And Empa actually chose to take this one.
Wow.
That's what kind of surprised me. I was expecting just Jax to outstat check the Fiora, because he was getting more resources initially, as he was getting kind of shadowed by his own jungler, while Empa kind of wasn't. But that wasn't quite it. Emperor kind of greeted for that one and got rightfully punished for it. And with that, I mean, also the flash play coming from Glory. Gold basically back to even, and Team Wales still very nicely into this game. And Killer Queen by now hit level 6, so he gets to play the game as well.
I'm waiting to see what they're able to do. Crinzy, this has to be the slowest VCS game that I've ever actually witnessed in my entire life. And it is 3:30 in the morning, so I'm not shouting at anything right now. I'm just watching a macro game kind of unfold in front of me, where we've got a handful of kills, a couple of waves, just off the back of a couple of solid fights that have come through. SBTC starting to take control of the map. They get a little bit of pressure. They get a little bit of gold advantage. They've got the Rift Herald now. They're feeling like they're getting into a good position, despite Team Wales having a composition that's a little bit better suited for the beginning of the game. You've got like Annie, you've got Jin, you've got those types of positions kind of going. But outside of that, it has been all SPTC up to this point. Yeah,
it looks like a bit of a stylistic shift in the whole VCS, I would say. I mean, I also might think that last week the games were also in general slower, at least as they usually have been in the VCS. I mean, VCS is known to be like kind of like the LPL light in that regard, that they are like the most aggressive region ever. And so far, I mean, it just hasn't looked to be the case for them, as we also see some item build adaptations, or item build choices rather, with Slater going for the lethality Varus is something that is quite different from what I initially expected, with maybe a hyper carry like Varus, especially paired with the Seraphine, would have been strong, but they also like want to have something to do in the mid game, right? Also, this lethality Varus, a bit stronger in lane, can do a lot against the Jin, and here we see it, right? He's 20 CS ahead on him, with of course some gank attention, but that was happening from both sides, I would say. So not that unfair in that regard. And however, on the other side, this Fiora is a problem, and it's not a problem for Team Wales right now, and it's down more than 40 CS to the Jax. A bit of shadowing to Killer Queen was enough for that, and now he might just get nerfed, the poor guy.
Okay, does not look like they're gonna pull some sort of pool guy screen, or a pool person screen here, for a minute at least. It might be a little bit longer until we end up seeing that kind of come to fruition here for the side of Team Wales, who are... They're down a decent chunk of resource. They're not down a ridiculous amount of gold. It does, however, seem like SBTC has a decent control of this game just based on how much they've been denied from their enemies, how much they're able to accomplish. This is another big dive underneath the top tower. That's going to be a big play in from the side of Nagia, who Nagia is actually able to get a really, really reasonable amount of damage down on top of Emperor, which does lead to a solo kill. I thought that Killer Queen was going to have to turn back for a little bit more, but instead he just kind of walks through the remainder of the tower, and Nagia is the one that walks away with the massive W.
Yeah, very massive W. I think you're also gladly taking away one Drake of your own for that play. Of course, with the rear table crashing down now, and you likely losing first turret, it gets kind of debatable if it was really a good play at the end of the day, and Jax not being able to take the turret, but here we see in the inventory that he just now got full build. Divine Sandor completed for the side of the Jax, so he will be very strong right now, with the Fiora just being struggling on some components and some stuff, which is of course something that's not easy for her to play around, as Fiora is kind of useless if she's very much put behind. She doesn't have a lot of utility in the kit. Just one situational CC spell, she's kind of squishy on her own and can't really just team fight from behind or something and just group with a team. She wouldn't really do much in that situation. So her being behind is very much a problem. Jhin being behind, of course, also not good, but he still provides like this, at least a tiny bit of utility with his long range deadly flourish snares coming out, with the curtain call being at least a good chunk even from behind, and he's also going the little felty rod, so he will not be as useless in the mid game as he would otherwise would need to complete those expensive crit items, which would put him very much more behind the curve. He will, of course, still not be as much of a threat as Slater will be, but I think the 80 carry gap in this situation, not as big as the top gap.
Not at all. Nagia is actually kind of crushing this matchup, which is weird because we're usually accustomed to Emperor doing such a good job. I remember last year we were talking about Emperor in spades being just this amazing top laner who very nearly was able to kind of put his team into playoffs and even to further competition potentially on the world stage, but just wasn't able to do it. Was tied in solo kills. I think it was solo kills and also pentakills were both statistics that went over to the side of Emperor in the previous split. Not the case anymore, while it is very much that it is Denethor more than anybody else, or DNK, my apologies, more than anybody else. While that isn't like different in a number of different ways, there are plenty of other things in the record that suggest that it is a different kind of book or fracture or whatever you want to call it.
And Emperor was even the guy that pulled out Riven last split, right? He was so confident and was really whacking circles left and right, as you say. And this game, he kind of doesn't look that at all with Nagia. I mean, he was one of the, I think, lower to mid-tier top laners even in this game so far. He's been absolutely crushing it. Ganataser, of course, Killer Queen, did pull a lot of attention to his lane. But so far, he just plays like he deserves exactly that, right? Just a strong side gear chat top laner, really crushing his matchup with the last pick R5 counter pick. And so far it works out. Hasn't taken the turret so far. We see overall the turret plate money being a bit in favor of SBTC, with about a bit more than 1k gold for them, just 700 gold for the side of Team Wales, which of course net them a little bit of a gold lead, a little bit of a Drake lead. But if it's overall beneficiary to them, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, it would be nice to get some kind of interaction here, because we've been now waiting for a few minutes at least before we've had our any sort of real interaction. One of the biggest problems I have with any mid lane is that if you're going to be building Ludens or Rod of Ages or Rylai's or whatever it is that you decide to go, I feel as though the best item that you could go out with is 100% your Fox and Shorts. Almost certainly the case. Mostly because, first off, I love foxes, but also the other part of it is, having that kind of ability does change quite a bit here for this game. Being able to kind of drag everything else back through. Man, what happened to the VCS, Critzy? I used to remember 30 kill games at this point, and yet here I am sitting here. I was told play-by-play was the hardest job in the entire world, and yet here I am. I basically am just second color in this game.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to us, it's kind of not bad, as we are in fact two color casters.
No,
Maybe
yeah,
it's just
I'm not
it's just the
proud
VCS
of it.
adapting to us. We should be more grateful about it. Maybe that's
That
maybe
is
kind
true.
of
Yeah, maybe they're doing it on purpose. That's true.
yeah. It's just with turret being taken by Team Waits right now, and then maybe just getting one turret push for them. Of course, plate's no longer there for them, as they can't really cash out the money for them, but the charge itself hurts a little bit more, or actually does it, it's 2 damage, but it doesn't hurt more, it hurts the same.
Yeah.
With of course, it's maybe being enough to crack like one outer turret. The top lane turret should fall without a herald charge either way for the side of the Whales to really put that one down, as the gold gets kind of evened out overall. And yeah, you just mentioned item builds, and I also want to talk a little bit about that one. With the Word of Ages Seraphine being played in the mid lane. I haven't seen that one before, but it makes a lot of sense, basically, because Seraphine is like one of those champs. The counterplay against it is to just one-shot the Seraphine and just play the rest of the fight out without her annoying heals and shields and movement speed buffs and all that buffs and like a little bit of damage she does. And now, if you can get her not get one-shot by the side of SBTC, I think she's kind of fine, right? Always having this extra HP, extra mana, just seems kind of nice, and it's also kind of a damage item, so Word of Ages is kind of exactly what she wants.
Yeah, Rod of Ages, especially considering kind of the value that it's had over the last couple of months, has been a favorite of mages in general. You get such good flat stats combined with a bunch of survivability, so mages just get to live forever inside of teamfights. Dragon is going to go over to the side of SBTC. Actually, it's Team Wales. My apologies. They have swift color palettes right now, so I'm a little bit frustrated by that more than anything else.
Yeah, true. Yeah, wet side is the team that's purple bluish, and the blue side is the wet orangish team. That's very confusing for us.
Yeah.
Casters hate this trick.
Yeah, if you could just fix every single person's name to be something reasonable and put them all on the same team and made sure that they knew how to order, whatever team that is, 100% gets my success. Like, I will be donating money to a team like that just because it's so seldom to find a team that's got kind of all those principles down pat to the point where they're not really making a bunch of mistakes. Outside of handful of kind of oversteps from the side of SE, where they're pulling in a couple of players they're relatively new to this place. Given that there's only been one kind of, I'll call it a game more than anything else, that we're playing, that might not end up getting you treated if you don't tell me exactly what you want to do.
And I just see in the bottom left corner that we are on patch 13.3. I'm not quite sure if that's before or after the Orianna buff, so maybe that's why we don't see Orianna, as she hasn't been buffed yet. It's before, yeah. That explains it pretty well. As Nagia takes on the turret, and here we might see some action.
Okay, a little bit here and there. A decent flank from B means that maybe the corner's getting cut off, but unfortunately, again, we just get nothing. A little bit of a fizzle out right there. It's an attempted tower defense coming through from the side of SE, hoping that there would be some overextension from Team Wales. But given that they've got traps, they've got wards, they've got everything they could ever possibly need to make sure that they could prevent a kind of false bit here against the side of Team Wales. Team Wales is trying to find their footing to some extent. I still think that it's a decent ways out. You can tell they're winning the game. I really do think that they are actually in a very, very good position. Yes, I know that Spider-Man is not home yet, but will eventually be home. But the rest of the world is still falling to pieces slowly and slowly. So I don't know. For Wales, if I'm Wales, I don't feel pressed about my position. I've got Jax, I've got Annie, I've got Jhin. I'm feeling okay about the late game because there's no true tank to absorb a little bit of that damage from Annie or from Jhin with this massive burst. As opposed to the opposite side where, like, Nautilus is the tankiest you're going to get, Jax, maybe the tankiest you're going to get, and they're getting blown up in fights. So Team Wales looking really, really good right now.
And I also think SBTC to some extent is doing Team Wales a favor with that. I mean, them not having a true tank. I mean, the Gragas, yeah, I know in the current meta the AP heavy builds are kind of better, but does it really have to be like Night Harvester into Sorcerer Shoes and then a Dark Steel on top of that? Isn't there like a Donus Hourglass possible, or like an Everfrost to have like some AP damage, but also some sort of front end for the team fight, as Emperor's getting dove?
Yeah, that's just an easy, clean kill coming out here from the side of Team Wales.
It's not though. Again, they didn't kill him.
They didn't kill him. They did get the tower though, which is the clean kill that I was referring to, which is all that matters in the grand scheme of things, right? Like we're focusing on towers here. But we're 4-4 in kills at 20 minutes. This is not a VCS game, Princey. This is a very mechanical LCK game that we're going to be focusing on. We got 40 more minutes of this game to actually talk about. Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Oh, never mind. They're going to be covered. No worries. Yeah, no, nothing crazy. I was hyped because there might have been a potential kickoff, but it just doesn't exist. All right.
Nah.
We're not worried about that.
The most exciting thing is basically just the Rift Hammer charge onto the turret to just brutally murder the turret. And that's the kill you were referring to. And that's just all we wanted.
Yeah,
I love murdering turrets. I'm a Yorick player, you know, so
you're a Yorick player.
That just kind of goes hand in hand with itself. And also, look at this Word of Ages difference, right? Any on 10 stacks, the Seraphine on 6 stacks, and they both wanted to watch that. I gotta say, though, to be fair to Dire1, he was subbing in a tier in between, so just a bit of delay is normal on that side, but 4 full minutes seems a bit much for me. Either way, yeah, you addressed it earlier before this dive kind of play was happening. The Jhin with this Felty build, Prowler's Claw into Yunus Ghost Blade. Yeah, he would fall off heavily against any sort of tankiness, but there is no any sort of tankiness on the team of SBTC.
Yeah,
so I think overall he's fine. Yes.
Yeah, he does not care on the slates. Again, it's one of those builds where it's like, okay, if you go lethality, Jhin, you better be playing against 3 squishy champions. Well, honestly, he's kind of playing against 5 squishy champions, more or less. Like, you'll get a little bit of armor maybe on Emperor in the right circumstance. You'll get a little bit of armor in some circumstances from DNK and D1, because it'll go Zonias, and then you'll be up, like, you'll probably be down 30% of the damage that you had previously without any pen. With the pen, it's not going to be changing all that much, which is the important little bit of information. Okay, can you explain to me why Yorick is getting nerfed on the next patch? Because like, there's like a bunch of champions that have been absolutely pick or ban here inside of professional play, and yet Yorick is receiving a ban next patch. Can you explain that one to me?
Yeah, the cynical answer is he is above than 50% win rate. I think it's 51% anything in even higher solo queue, so he's kind of strong to broken right now. And he is neither a cute anime girl nor a guy with 8-pack, so he does have to get nerfed immediately.
Yeah, they don't have skins.
He doesn't sell skins, yes.
That's true. Okay, charmed up immediately his Glory. He's going to be stuck in basically in the middle of the team. B does pop the ultimate. His Glory is going to go flashing. Does find the first kill against DNK. Might actually find a second now as Slater. Really out of position, unfortunately, as Nagia is the one that jumps in. Is going to be able to find a Sun, find a couple of kills. As it looked like a really rough spot here from the side of Team Wales for a hot second, as Glory looked like he was picked completely off. But now they're on 2 kills. They're chasing their 3rd kill. Kind of insane right there from the side of Team Wales. Now they're going to be looking at their Baron buff. They don't have the Azir. They don't have a real kind of primary DPS. And somehow,
Tibbers
blitzing this down really well.
They really are, and it was just a lot of collapsing onto the Glory. Maybe we see a replay of that one. But Glory, surprisingly tanky and can buy a lot of time with both the stoppage. As we see the replay again. Curtain Call coming out, not really hitting anyone. That wasn't really the main damage. Glory, how he doesn't die there is quite of illegal. He just is off the CC chain, gets to go into Zonias with the ward and with his shield coming out. He's surprisingly tanky and can't really get focused down. As Killer Queen creates a distraction with the Cyclone, Nagia goes in with the Counter-Strike to surprisingly teamfight well onto this Jax, so they get the 2 kills as a cleanup with all the tools expanded onto Dire1, onto Glory, just to not kill him at the end. So it was just 2 pickups for Team Wales. One of them was a jungler, and this late into the game, you can just start off the Baron, get the Baron with that, and with this Baron can start to snowball the game into your favor. But with just 2 Drakes on their side, 1 on the other side, it would take quite some time, and by the time the next Drake spawns, the Baron will be expired. But what I want to see now from Team Wales is get that map control, maybe push on some tier 2 turrets, especially with the Jax with Baron buff. That should definitely be not too hard of a task, and I want to see them take huge control in this game right now with it.
Yeah, Jax being able to kind of step in on the bottom side as the split push threat, especially with the advantage that so far Nagia has kind of garnered over top of Emperor, has been just a little bit ridiculous. Nagia is this player that I think has received a decent amount of flack over the last 2 years, basically, for being a rookie and never really advancing much further. Last split, I think we saw a little bit of a jump on the play from Nagia more than anything else, where like Nagia is starting to get really, really good at some very little stuff. And now it's a question of, is he competitive enough at the level for LCK, LCS, anything like that? This Baron buff is doing a ridiculous amount of work because it is really simple to clear the wave from as far away as this team is, but they can't get close enough to actually make an impact.
Oh, arrow?
That's a big arrow. Do we see a big flank from DNK? Actually gets a body slam, gets double kill from the body slam on its lonesome. Q is going to tag Glory as well. Do you have a
Killer
flash?
Queen, what are you doing?
Have a flash. Okay, and Killer Queen, I blink for a 1/10 of a second, and Killer Queen goes running in for absolutely no reason. All right, well, good to know.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if I should be like sad or angry or both about him because he chose that fight. It was just 3 kills for no reason for SBTC. I mean, I get them getting a reward of 2 kills with a very good combination of the Enchanted Crystal Arrow into the cask, into the Encore from the Seraphine coming out. That looked quite sexy, so I think they deserve to kill the bot lane over there. But why is Killer Queen going in? Who's really dealing damage together with you to make it a good follow-up play? See, we see again how it played out. Turret Siege on the mid in tier 1 coming out. Volley into now. Look at Palat, what he's doing. I think Asho is the main contributor to it, with him hitting onto Ved right here. The cast from the NK also a very good setup for this Encore. The CC chain kind of lands in just right, and here we see 2 quick kills for them. Now, what is Killer Queen trying to accomplish there? Who does he expect to help him there? Does he expect Global just to step back in for him? And I don't know either.
Yeah, it's really, really tough to say. It was very, I wouldn't say a completely uncommon, but definitely a less common than normal kind of lapse in judgment here from Killer Queen, who's one of the more veteran players, not just an amateur, but in CeeLo on this roster here. Being one of the better players inside of the VCS has just been... we've always talked so heavily of Killer Queen being this kind of monster. He was like the MVP of I can't remember what team he was originally on. Whatever team, one of the teams that got relegated. Luxury, my bad. It is 3:45 in the morning. Okay, an ounce of slack not being.
I cut you
exactly
some slack.
Coming from. All right, I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Who I'm not cutting some slack is Team Wales, because they had the Baron buff. They lost 3 members, arguably at least one of them for not much reason, and they also lost mostly a lot of time with their Baron buff. That's kind of the hard part, right? You didn't even crack the mid lane tier 1 turret, the most important turret regarding map control, with a Baron buff, and you have a Fat Jax on your side. I mean, that should have been possible at least. Nagia, of course, building as offensively as possible, going Spear of Shojin 3rd item is something that I appreciate, because maybe he has to 1v9 this game for his team, as they have been like acting like Moens to some extent in the 4-man squad, as the 4-man squad of SE is pulling away from this Drake and just giving it for free to Team Wales. I'm not quite sure if they have to give it for free. I mean, the gold lead is basically non-existent either side. They have a teamfight composition that kind of could work, especially against the Jhin not really being that much of a DPS machine. And of course, their poke was not either, but he's definitely more well-fed than the Jhin is. I think they could have fought for this Drake.
Yeah, it's one of those circumstances where SBTC, they're calculating, okay, can we move in on this Drake? Can we move in on the direct strike? It feels like this was the opportunity. You had a number of members that were kind of recovering from injury. You had like a handful of very, very kind of unique circumstances where it felt like SBTC didn't have to give 3rd Drake and potentially give up Infernal Soul unless they really want to fight on the Infernal Soul. If they've got an item spike coming up in the next 5 minutes that they're really, really positive is going to make the massive difference in the entire world of beating this school, I would love to hear it, because right now I do not know that we actually got one.
Yeah, and actually the 4-man squad of SBTC should have been massively ahead, right? The goal is super close, and a lot of the lead that, or what is initially coming from, there's a lot of the lead for the side of the Jax, so the rest of the team has to be far behind, and they still didn't even go for this fight. They were not confident for whatever reason, and this brings Team Wales to soul point right now. Gold basically completely even right now, with 4 minutes left for potential soul for them, and the Jax being a permanent distraction. This could be a very hard game for SBTC, with them being so good in control in the first few minutes. It's kind of astonishing.
Really is. Kind of awesome to see Team Wales start to succeed a little bit. Again, we were kind of high on SBTC because they have, new coach Ren stepping in from SGB. They've got a lot of the same returning roster from they had in the last split, where they were starting to look good towards the middle. Clearing up some of the throat and the mucus stuff, I think would have gone a very, very long way in their previous week. But it's really nice to see this team kind of back at it again, being able to kind of come together as a roster, being able to not kind of miss out on a handful of players that are going to be taking over sooner rather than later. And instead, just kind of welcoming with open arms the multiple members that are being brought into the roster. Between you've got like Frost Force, and then you've also got Light Pulse, and you've also got ESP Graves as potential kind of winners in this situation as well. So that's a really fun situation to find yourself in.
And SE just now burning 2 ultimates in the mid lane defense, not really for much of a gain, and they don't even need a wave to really bring down this turret. And Nagia absolutely destroys Dire One.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was pure, utter annihilation. Was that through the Jax ultimate as well? I actually can't tell.
He used the Jax ultimate at least.
Yeah, he had popped it. I don't know if it was during that engagement, but definitely my dad buying horses, that is a while to rotate.
Yeah, here we see Baron being started off, but not quite by the side of Team Wales. I mean, they also don't have a true tank to really tank it up. I mean, the closest one to it would maybe be Bee or Killer Queen on their side, and they aren't really true tank either in their own fairness. But with Nagia not TPing to this Baron, grouping with the team, they just want to force the issue right now, 5v4 on the map. But the Jack's not really being a team fighter. I think this is a risky call.
Ooh.
I think they could have just pressured the side lane.
Yeah, you could potentially bring him in, but I think it might be too little too late. Really big ultimates kind of being thrown into the midst of all of Team Wales, or my apologies, Team SBTC is, okay. DNK survived way too long in here, but was able to finally make it out as it's a couple of shutdowns kind of handed over to both sides here. As it's 2 kills for the side of SBTC and a full team wipe coming out from the side of Team Wales. Biggest things, no boots. Now Duskblade Drakthar has been purchased here from the side of Cartman. He's going to be focusing that out on Recess. And then you've got a bunch of other unboxings for shoes that are going to be coming through. That was an attempted steal coming out from the Seraphine, but she's just going to die for that. Team Wales just win everything. Like, what in the world?
First of all, I want to apologize to Team Wales for ever doubting them. They definitely need Nagia here to really have this Baron DPS coming on. And he actually kind of did a lot of work in this team fight, as we have seen this right now. Here we see Glowy starting off with a nice flash. Timbers coming out, Curtain Call with a good kind of distance being chunked down. And Bit actually hitting his shot means he deals a decent amount of damage and brings good utility in this fight. Taking one to the team, just dying, so DNK can also die, and with the jungler being down on their side, their jungler being surviving, they are the winning team in this team fight, they can pull off this Baron, and likely to say to the Baron so later on, and I want to have DR1's confidence, right? He tries to go for a steal on Seraphine, on Wall of Ages Seraphine, like, what do you expect to happen? You just get killed again, one kill for free, wasn't necessary, and with that Team Wales is a bit further ahead than they should have been.
And not to mention, also, I mean, you look at the gold advantage that's being held right now, and it's actually 4,000 in favor of Wales, but it doesn't feel like that's the circumstance. It feels like we're so even right now. That is potential flank, not able to find Michaelette, as DNK will run down towards the bottom side of the map, going to get rooted up. This is probably the end of days for poor Nautilus, as they bring 4 to kind of surround him elsewhere, and no one was pushing in any other circumstance. I'm not exactly sure why it is that, like, at least you wouldn't have somebody on call specifically for that circumstance. But here they are, Team Wales, sieging up even more. Once again, if you give a big team fight, I'm sure Annie would love a big team fight. So just be very cautious about that.
Yeah, but why are they on mid lane tier 2? Why are they not on Dragon's Soul, like right now? Like, you are 5v4, DNK is down. You said he was running down, that was not quite it. He was running it down for this play. Being the jungler, so close to the Dragon, both in time and in space, means that there's a free Infernal Soul for the side of Team Wales. It already looked quite easy for them to get that, as they were, baroned up, and of course, with a decent gold lead being in their minds. With that being said, they just now secured the Infernal Soul, and that game will be very hard to come back to. I mean, it's just that his chin pick will never fall off in this composition, right? He plays against 5 squishies, he has the Infernal Soul now on his end, and they will all deal a lot of damage, and with this Annie being on their side, it's so easy just to pinpoint one target and just blow it up. Only the Edge of Night is kind of annoying, I guess.
All right, and a Jhin ultimate popped in the midst of nowhere. Slater also has
no Edge of Night.
Massive shield up. Okay, there we go. Okay, that's what we were looking for. That's a really, really big win here, where potentially a fight could actually be coming through. Nagia now also with
nice Counter Strike.
Be able to find a double stun. That is a massive kill onto the supports. The bot lane now done. Nagia's not done. I'm a little shocked to be saying those words specifically. Now DNK kind of tries to disengage the situation. He and Killer Queen now heading back towards the mid lane, as that is going to be a massive break on these mid lane towers with the 2 down. I wonder if they've got the fire to power to finish here, Quincy. They've got 2 full waves stacked up here.
They should be. Ooh. I mean, it's a huge part of their wave clip being gone with the Felty Waves and the Ash really missing, and it's a 5-minute squad with Infernal Soul.
Insane ultimates kind of popped up here. That's going to be a big ultimate being dropped onto the Gragas. They're looking to just blitz down the tower. They get it. I think they just get the next if they really, really want to. Team Wales coming out of what seems like nowhere, actually taking a really, really good game number 1 against SBTC, getting that Infernal Soul, not being pushed